On this episode, we wonder, what would it be like in a world without recruiters?
Would everybody be happy?
We'll find out.
We will.
Atlas All Access starts now.
Kirkham at 0450.
All right.
What's going on, man?
A world without recruiters.
Without recruiters. This is an interesting topic.
So we've kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's important maybe we revisit it because it actually happened to a traveling duo that has worked for us before. Took a job with one of those new online no recruiter sites.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I've questioned you a little bit about it because I think it's an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. I think it could be a great thing.
Sure.
Put us out of business in a job, which, maybe that's automation just as stuff has gone overseas and stuff like that. But
I don't think it threatens our livelihood. Mm-hmm. I think it threatens what we've known for the past 15 years.
Correct. And that's the thing is everybody wants to evolve and be better in the future. And mm-hmm. that might be where this industry goes, maybe. On there.
And then we'll get into this a little bit, though. I really don't believe that you could do this job, travel nursing, without a recruiter.
Yep.
I honestly believe that. And that's not because of Atlas or anything else. I think you need that personal connection.
I 100% believe that as well. And there's different things that travel nurses think. Like some people want a connection with their recruiter. Mm-hmm. Some people don't. Some people give me a contract, get me working, and I don't need you anymore.
Yep.
And that's fine. And I think as a recruiter with a mid-sized desk, I see people on both sides. I have those people on there as well. But not having a recruiter at all, that's a definitely an interesting topic to go by.
It is. Let's run down some of the potential pitfalls.
Yeah.
Because we thought through this. We got to think ahead, right?
Yeah.
And how can we get better in the face of something like this happening?
Sure.
So let's run through some of those potential pitfalls.
Absolutely. So you kind of said the words already, but human touch. What do you mean that by human touch?
So being able to call your recruiter for any reason whatsoever.
Sure.
Maybe it's just because you got there and your housing stinks.
Yep.
Or you just had a bad shift and you want someone to listen to.
Sure. Absolutely.
All those happen, right?
I'm curious, and you said housing there too. Do these companies offer a housing, or is it just specifically housing stipend no matter what?
It appears, and I need to do more research, but it appears both.
Yep.
But they run, if you opt for them to do your housing for you, mm-hmm. then it's run through one of those third parties that we could use right now.
Like turnkey.
The other names escape me.
Sure.
The problem we found
Furnish Finders.
Yes.
Yep.
Or whatever. Housing Finders, whatever it is.
One of those.
The problem we found with those is we could go directly to that leasing company, and get that same place for $300 less.
Absolutely. You're basically paying another fee.
Absolutely.
On there. So that's an interesting mm-hmm. thing. That would be interesting to get some more information on there.
But just having that person on the other end of the phone for any reason at all.
Somebody in your corner.
Absolutely.
There's some. I get 2-3 phone calls a day of just, hey, how should I handle this situation?
Yep.
On there, and I think that's number one, that human touch, mm-hmm. having somebody in your corner to be able to follow up with you. Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely a big thing on there.
I love to order off of Amazon, but I understand that there's a huge difference between ordering off of Amazon and putting your professional livelihood and your professional license in someone else's hands.
I agree. And the next thing that's on our list here is insurance. Like, as a company, what is Atlas, or what is a company providing you insurance-wise of, agency carrying, professional, general, workers' comp, and those kind of things?
Yeah, we carry it. It's just part of the, that's the reason why you're not a 1099, right? That's the reason why you're employed. You're our W-2. So professional, general, workers' comp, that malpractice insurance.
Yep.
I can tell you, and I'm not scared to say it, Atlas paid $2 million last year in order to carry that insurance.
That's crazy.
Giant.
That's a price to do business.
It's the cost of doing business.
And it's as much as you hate sending that check out, I'm sure, it's part of the business.
Yes.
It's part of that stuff that goes into those rate calcs that we talk about all the time, that people don't understand. Where does all the money go on the bill rate?
Exactly.
On there as well.
Which isn't to say that you couldn't get it on your own.
Yeah.
Because I know you can. This discussion has come up too, but do you have to?
Yeah. And the answer is no.
No.
And then, it goes right back to when. It's not if something's going to happen on assignment. Over a 3-4 year period of traveling, it's when.
It's when.
You're going to get accused of something.
Yep.
And it's not just traveling, it's staff. Like, everybody probably at some point in time has gone through that. And so you go back to that personal touch of having somebody in your corner.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to get, one of these companies on the phone or do a podcast with them to kind of ask them that. Like,
I would love to have them sit here.
If anybody's out there, contact Rich or
Yep.
contact myself. Our information is on there. Like, we'd love to bring you in. I know we can Skype it or do whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah. We would love to. It's not that Atlas is better than anybody else. We would just love to have them on and let them speak their mind of what they're doing.
Sure. And you never know. There's a happy medium there maybe. Because you're right. There are a number of nurses out there that don't need that personal connection with their recruiter.
Yep.
They just don't.
Yep.
And maybe this option works better for them.
Yep.
So it'd be silly for us to say, we're not going to do that.
No.
Keep that door open.
I think we're more intrigued. We're more intrigued.
The more we talk about it, the more I am.
Yeah. For sure. So if something would happen, who's going to be in your corner with that kind of company, or who are you going to call? Who's going to be on the other end? Yep. Or is there even somebody on that other end?
That's a good question.
On there. So compliance. The old getting compliant for your next assignment. We know it's dreaded. We know you have to do it.
Yep.
It's part of being joint commission.
Right.
Are these companies joint commission certified?
I'm going to assume yes.
I think most major vendors, to work through them now, I think they require you to. Not everyone, but most of them.
Not everyone, but I would say probably 90% do.
On there. So we're curious about, who is on the other line. If you don't have a recruiter and you have an issue with compliance, who is that person that is helping you out?
Right.
Is it, on the other end?
Do they understand compliance?
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
Right.
What's their background? Do they understand why you're doing that for a hospital? Yep. To follow up the correct way. And we're not saying that there's incompetent people out there.
Oh, no.
It's just like once again, I get 3 phone calls a day of, Adam, why do I have to renew this certification?
Yep. Right.
Why do I have to have 2 PPDs instead of 1? Yep. Well, let me get you over to Jackie in compliance.
Exactly.
Let me get you over to Kiana.
Yep.
They're going to be able to answer your question a lot better. So it's just that it goes back to point number 1. What is the human touch on there?
Right.
Who's going to be in that corner for you?
That's a human touch on a completely different level, where they intimately understand. That our compliance people in an agency, not necessarily Atlas, but just in general, understand what has to happen in order to make sure you can start on Monday.
Yep. For sure.
That's what they do every day.
For sure. So then, like, career growth, and you kind of wrote this one down. What do you mean by career growth? Help me out on that.
So you could, while you're on contract, we'll take ICU for example. You could start as an ICU nurse, take a couple different contracts in the ICU, then maybe somewhere along the way you're given the opportunity to float to CVICU.
Okay.
Maybe you have some of those skills. Maybe on the next one you're offered some shifts in the cath lab.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So that happens, and you really like it.
Yep.
You think I could definitely be a cath lab nurse.
Yep.
Monday through Friday, like a 6 to 3 rather than 12-hour nights or whatever.
Yep.
But how do you make that transition?
Yeah.
I've always believed the recruiter is an integral piece of that transition. It's your skills, but it's the recruiter's help and guidance to get you to that maybe first cath lab job from your ICU.
Sure.
Or whatever the case might be.
It's really somebody going to bat for you.
Yes.
Because basically if you're sending your resume into this company and it just says ICU, 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 and maybe in there it says floated to CVICU, somebody's got to go to bat for you and say, hey, this person has all the ICU skills on their last assignment. They did these things on there. But if you're just automatically submitting to jobs without somebody obviously pushing a client manager or a manager at a hospital to actually take a look at you,
right?
Are you going to be able to advance your career?
Right.
So that totally makes sense to me of that point there.
Yeah.
So
you hit the nail on the head. They go to bat for you.
Yeah.
You, the recruiter, are the advocate for that nurse to tell that nurse manager or whoever, it's the client manager in our case that's talking to the nurse manager. This nurse can do that.
Yep.
We have confidence that they can do it based on what they did on their last contract or the previous one that you simply couldn't get through an online submission.
I 100% agree with you on there. And kind of our last point, and I really didn't think about this ahead of time, we go back to what happens if something goes wrong.
Yep.
And, I'll give Rich a lot of props and people that follow us on Facebook and everything. If people bring up issues with Atlas, like Rich steps in, he makes a comment like, hey, how can I help? How can I do those things? But the first thing Rich is going to do is Rich is going to text or call me,
right,
or whoever the recruiter or client manager is involved, and get some information. There's always a backstory.
Always.
And I get this wrong every time, and my wife keeps trying to teach me this, but there used to be two sides to a story. I think she told me there's 4 now.
Really? She
yeah.
is a teacher. She is probably smarter than we are.
Way smarter than us.
Yes.
But there's 4 sides to every story. So Rich is always following up to say like, hey, what happened? What do you know? Hey, reach out before I have to get involved.
Right.
So we can figure that out. So if that happens on assignment and the owners of this company have to get involved in some way, do you have somebody other than your recruiter,
right,
like a Rich Smith or somebody at that company that is going to step in? I mean, does that make sense?
That's absolutely true, and I don't mind. In fact, it's just part of what I do every day.
Yeah.
It's just, and I think we wouldn't be nearly as successful and that's not saying that I'm that important, right? But we wouldn't be nearly as successful if you didn't have that person on that wall that's watching.
I agree.
That watches all the time.
Absolutely. And even when you do step in, I've seen it on both ways where you're not afraid to say, hey, nurse A, you're kind of in the wrong here.
Yeah.
And let's figure out a happy medium. Or hey, recruiter A, you were completely out of line. You need to change your process, or that's not the Atlas way,
right,
or anything like that. So, man, I just, this brings up, I think you and I mean, we've talked about it multiple times, but it brings up a ton of great information on there.
Right.
I would love for maybe some travelers that have tried this, like please, like make some comments. Maybe we can do a podcast with them. Maybe we can do a podcast with one of the owners of one of these companies. Like, I would just love for for some other people to chime in on this and maybe give us some information.
And there are some out there that kind of stand in between, right? Like Wanderly, for example, and I've talked to the guy that owns Wanderly that started it. They kind of stand in between, but there's others out there. The one that took a job, the duo that took a job was through Nomad, out of Florida, I believe. So, and I have yet to find a phone number or contact person.
Sure.
I would love that. If somebody has some connection to that, please get that to us, because we need to understand more.
Yep. And I think you told me at one point in time, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of these companies started out as a PA or a doctor's placement. Is that correct?
That sounds like Nomad.
Okay.
Yes. So they did like moonlighting for doctors and stuff.
Yep. Locums and stuff, and then now they're getting into the nursing world, which makes sense. We love our nurses. Why wouldn't they want to get in the business?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
you've got one side already, so why not tackle the other side there too? And
I like it.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, like we said, if you have any details on this whatsoever, the trail has gone cold, so to speak, and I cannot. And I think I'm pretty good at investigating. I haven't been able to find a name or a phone number yet. So which is moderately concerning, but. Give them some time. They're new. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
Give us your information. We'd love to hear it, and we can't wait to see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
All right, man.